What if the very thing you're doing to find peace is what keeps it away? Pause for a moment. Feel the weight of that question. Because somewhere in you, beneath all the practices and techniques and effort, there's a quiet exhaustion you don't talk about. The tiredness of trying, the fatigue of working on yourself, as if who you are right now is somehow fundamentally broken. Perhaps you meditate every morning, watch your thoughts, observe your emotions. You've read the books. And still, late at night, when the world goes quiet, there's that familiar restlessness, that voice whispering, "When will I finally arrive?" Maybe there are nights when you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you're fundamentally incapable of peace, if everyone else gets it, but you're somehow wired wrong. That thought, that quiet despair, is not failure. It's the threshold, because the struggle itself, the division between who you are and who you think you should become, is the only prison there ever was. Today, we simply invite ourselves to rest, not in another technique, not in another method promising peace at the end of a path, but in the quiet recognition of what's already here. This contemplation, moving through the radical insights of Jiddu Krishnamurti, offers a space to understand how the one trying to solve the problem is the problem. And in seeing this, something extraordinary becomes possible. There are those who've spent years trying to quiet the mind. Every morning, before the world wakes, they sit. They watch thoughts move like clouds they cannot control. They practice presence, and for a while, it helps. There's a sense of progress, of getting somewhere. But then, a question arises. Is this not just another practice, another method? And if it's a method, does it not condition the mind further rather than set it free? When we turn our search for stillness into a system, something subtle happens. We begin to hope for results tomorrow from the effort we make today. And in that very movement, the hope, the effort, the waiting, the mind remains caught in the same cycle that has always bound it. So let's ask together, when you sit quietly to watch the movement of thought, what is actually taking place? Are you following a path that promises peace at its end? Or are you simply observing without motive, without goal, without expectation? Because the moment there is a goal, the mind is no longer free to see itself as it is. It's chasing an image born out of thought itself, and thought always carries the past with it, so it can never be truly free. Every method implies direction, and direction implies time. The mind starts to measure, am I closer today than yesterday? And in that very measurement lies comparison, struggle, the shadow of failure, life, truth, freedom. These cannot be bought through effort or reward. Can you sit quietly without the mind making it into a bargain? Without the promise of something greater waiting at the end? Because the moment there is a promise, there is time. And when there is time, the mind moves within the field of thought, always becoming, never simply being, like a river that never stops to notice it's already water. So imagine sitting quietly without any expectation, no reaching for peace, no running from pain, just listening to the mind as it moves, like watching a spider weave its web, not to judge the pattern, but simply to see the intelligence of the movement itself. When there is no center demanding progress, no observer judging success or failure, something extraordinary begins to happen. The mind watches itself without interference, and in that very seeing, without choice, without direction, there is a quietness that is not manufactured. This quietness is not the product of discipline. It is the silence that comes when the mind stops grasping, stops becoming, stops chasing results. But now, a strange question begins to emerge, one that changes everything. When you watch your thoughts, who is watching? When you observe your anger, your anxiety, your endless loops of worry, who is the observer? You might say, I am. I watch my thoughts. But who is this I? The mind creates a division. On one side, there is the observer, the one judging whether you're progressing or failing, whether you're spiritual enough. On the other side, there is the thought, the emotion, the thing to be changed. But this division is an illusion. The observer is the observed. This statement by Krishnamurti is perhaps the most radical insight ever articulated. The one who watches the anger is the anger. The one who tries to control fear is the fear. There is no separation. There is only thought observing itself and pretending to be two. When you see this, truly see it, not as an idea but as a living reality, the whole struggle collapses. Because if there is no observer separate from the observed, then who is there to fight? Who is there to fix? Think of it this way. There's a voice that criticizes, that says you are not enough, you should be better. And there's another voice that feels hurt by this, that wants to heal from it. Two voices, two selves. One attacks, one defends. But they are both you. They are both the movement of the same mind. So, what if you simply see the entire drama unfold without getting caught in it, without taking sides? This is not detachment. This is something far more alive. It is attention without motive, awareness without judgment, seeing without the need to fix anything. Let's make this immediate. Let's bring it into this moment. You're sitting in traffic on a Tuesday morning, already late. The car ahead hasn't moved in 3 minutes. Your jaw is tight. Your hands grip the wheel. There's frustration. But then, if you're someone who's worked on yourself, there's another layer. A voice that says, I should not be frustrated. I'm supposed to be more mindful than this. Now, there are two frustrations. The original impatience, and the frustration with yourself for being frustrated. The mind has divided itself, and the second frustration is far more exhausting than the first. So notice, what if you collapse the distance? What if there is just frustration, without the story of, I should not be feeling this? It moves, it breathes, it passes. Or consider anxiety. You have an important meeting tomorrow. The mind spins with worry. And if you've done your spiritual work, you know you're supposed to be present. So now there's anxiety about being anxious. If I were truly awakened, I wouldn't feel this way. Two layers, two selves. And the conflict between them is the real suffering. But when you simply see the anxiety without the one who judges it, something extraordinary happens. The anxiety is still there, but you are no longer at war with it. And in that absence of war, it has space to dissolve naturally. Right now, sitting wherever you are, can you feel this for yourself? Notice the weight of your body against the chair, not as something to fix, just as a sensation, the slight pressure behind your knees, the hum of the room around you, your breath moving in and out, without your effort, without your permission. Now, notice if there is a voice commenting on these words. Perhaps it says, "Yes, I understand this." Or perhaps it says, "This is too abstract." Notice that voice, but do not try to stop it. Do not create another voice that says, "I should not be thinking so much." Simply watch, without trying to be the watcher, just the watching itself. Now notice, who is noticing the breath? Can you find that observer? Or is there just awareness? Open, simple, already here. All of it, the sensation, the thought, the sound, appearing in awareness that has no edges, no center, no boundary. Rest there, not as a practice, just as you would rest your eyes on a sunset. No goal, no destination, just this. Perhaps right now your mind is resisting. Perhaps it's saying, "But if I stop trying, how will I grow? Won't I just stay stuck forever?" This is the voice of thought, afraid of its own ending, because thought survives through time, through the story of, "I was this, I am this, I will become this." And when you stop feeding that story, thought has nowhere to go. It quiets naturally. But understand, this does not mean you stop living. It means you stop living from the center of a self that is always lacking, always becoming, always at war with what is. There are those who've been on the spiritual path for decades. They've done everything, and still they ask, "When will I finally be free?" But the question itself reveals the trap. Who is it that wants to be free? The very entity that seeks freedom is the bondage. As long as there is a seeker, there will be something to seek. Truth is a pathless land. There is no method, no system that can lead you to truth, because truth is not somewhere else. It is not in the future. It is here, now, in the seeing of what is. But the mind that seeks, that follows paths, that accumulates techniques, cannot see what is. It is always becoming, never being. So what if the seeking stopped? Not because you've achieved what you were seeking, but because you've seen through the very mechanism of seeking itself? There is a collapse, not into despair, but a collapse of effort, a falling away of the structure. And in that space, there is a glimpse of what is always here when the seeker stops seeking. The ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. Can you do this? Can you watch your life without the constant narration of good or bad, right or wrong? When you sit with your morning coffee and notice the mind already planning the day, can you simply see that movement without joining it or fighting it? When you feel lonely and the mind says, "You should not feel this way," can you see the division being created? And in seeing it, let it collapse. This is not passive. This requires total attention, not the attention of concentration, which is effort, but the attention of interest, which is effortless. When you are truly interested in something, you give it your whole being. And when you watch yourself this way, when you see the entire structure of division, of conflict, of becoming, without trying to fix it, you discover that you are not broken. You never were. The problem was not you. The problem was the division you created within yourself, the watcher and the watched, the controller and the controlled. And when that division is seen through completely, there is a silence, not the silence of suppression, but the silence of wholeness. On certain evenings, when the sun slips behind the hills and the sky burns in colors that have no name, something extraordinary becomes possible. There is no one observing the sunset. There is just the seeing. No division. No thought saying this is beautiful. Just the movement of light and color and the awareness of it, without boundary. That is what is possible, not as a peak experience to be achieved, but as the natural state when the mind stops fragmenting itself. You're not the problem you're trying to fix. The one who is trying to fix is the problem. The moment you see this, deeply, not intellectually, but as a lived reality, the struggle ends. And what remains is simply life flowing freely without the weight of a self that must always become something more. So sit quietly sometimes, not to meditate, not to achieve peace, but to see with innocent eyes the movement of your own mind. And in that seeing, without judgment, without motive, you may discover that the freedom you have been seeking has been here all along, not as something you must earn, but as what you are when the seeking stops. And maybe you'll discover what was always true. The one who was trying to arrive was already home. The observer you were searching for was the seeing itself. Have you felt this? The exhaustion of trying to become someone better? The quiet collapse when effort finally ends? Share your experience in the comments. Not to perform spirituality, but because sometimes naming what we've seen helps us see it more clearly. If this quiet seeing resonates, stay with it. Let it move through you without grasping it. And if you'd like to explore more of these contemplations, you know where we are. Until then, be still, be nothing, be